Councillor Jim Murray. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm just going to sort of wing it a little bit. But it's great to see so many people here. I'm personally quite a green fan. I do a lot of work in sustainable construction. So I'm sort of trying to encourage the local building services in the area to reuse old materials, create new warmer houses so that we're reducing fuel poverty. So that's my sort of direct link. As far as the Eastbourne, I was in at the early days of the community gardens and community orchards, and it's such a good idea for sort of getting the community together, creating new green spaces where people can come together and grow their fruit and veg. The council itself has promised to have another 125 allotments, which we're working on at the moment, so that we can have more green areas for people to grow their own vegetables on. And we're also looking to free up any small sort of urban space that's available in the town. So if you've got a green space outside of your house that you would like to look after, you would like to turn into an orchard area or turn into a vegetable patch, which would be available to everybody in your area, then if you could approach the council, either myself or Steve Wallace or Gareth Williams, we would love to be able to come up there, have a look at it, have a chat with you, make sure that you can look after the plot properly, because there's no point in us sort of letting loose a load of areas which aren't going to be sustained and looked after for a length of time. And if all of those boxes are ticked, then we can sort of come along and help you, along with Edible Eastbourne, sort of look after those particular areas for a long period of time. This could be something which is as big as this table, so if you've just got a little green area outside your house, or it could be something as big as this stage. I don't know if many of you have been down to the Reddy White area, but that's quite a large plot. It's almost as big as this room. And it's looking so good now from when it started out sort of 8 months ago. So 100% support from the council. We really want to encourage all of these community groups to come together and sort of work together. It's fantastic to see some of you here. Thank you all very much for coming.
We'll pass you on the little flowchart that was done by Spencer Reed, one of our members, that really helps people work out, the process of going to the council. It's not difficult, and quite often you just call up and say, can I do it? And they go, yes, go ahead. As the lady at the Natural Fitness Centre told me, they just said, oh yeah, go ahead and do something with that. She had some nice edibles for it. So, the next speaker I'm going to invite up here is Sue. And Sue is one of the residents of the Reedy White Community Garden, which was originally called Dursley and Wincham Road Community Garden. But Sue's mother really wanted this to happen. I think she'll tell you the story a little bit, and we've changed the name to the name of her mother, who just passed on recently. Sue, thank you very much.
As Sally says, the Reedy White Community Garden is about a piece of land, just under 400 square feet, I think it is, that has been unadopted for over 100 years. For 60 of those, my mum has battled to try to get change of use for this piece of wasteland. And about 2.5 years ago, we started with Councillor Steve Wallace, who backed us to turn this into a community garden. We were struggling a little, but Friends of the Earth came on board, Edible Eastbourne, transition team. They have backed us hugely, and we now have fruit trees, herbs, lavender, some potatoes, gooseberry bushes, thank you, and various things. We've now mapped out a paving, an area for a paved area. We've got some benches to go in, and we've mapped out a pathway. It's a slow process, but it's been an enjoyable journey. We're having a lot of fun doing it. We have been shortlisted for 2014 Achievers Awards, and it really is taking shape. It's evolving. We have a Facebook page now where we are trying to raise funds, because at the end of the day it comes down to the slow drip of money coming in to be able to achieve the goals. but it is coming along, and I can truly say that 10 years ago I wouldn't have believed this possible, but today we have what will be a lovely piece of land and lots of food for the community to enjoy. Thank you.
We got this edible Eastbourne on Facebook group, and this lady came on one day, and her name was Vegetable Gardener. And anyway, she had all these plants to sell and stuff like that. It turned out that she is running a hugely successful school garden in Willingdon School, and they have gone quite far with it. So we've asked her to come up today and speak to any of you parents who have children at school and like the idea of creating a vegetable garden. Kim is very willing to, she's already given somebody else a tour of the school, to let you go around and you know, obviously by arrangement, and let you know how they've done it. So we have people who've done stuff before. There's lots of experts in the midst of our people. It's not just us, believe me. I mean, you're all experts in some way. So Kim, come up and tell us about the school gardens.
Thank you. I'm here this evening to talk to you about school gardening. Some of you know me as Kim, some of you know me as the vegetable gardener. But for those of you that don't know me, let me explain. I've been growing vegetables with my own children at home for several years. I wanted my children to understand where vegetables come from, to try new foods, and to have the inspiration I had as a child from my grandma. More recently, I've been growing vegetables with 450 children between the ages of 4 and 11. It started in 2012 when the Friends of Willingdon Primary School were asked by the school if we could transform the old outdoor and barely used swimming pool area into a sensory garden. We asked for donations from parents, grandparents, neighbours, friends and anyone that would help. We were amazed by the donations they came flooding in. We had plants, shrubs, trees, bulbs, seeds, gardening equipment. We even had 3 tractor tyres, scaffold boards and compost. We set to work and we had a sensory garden with colours, textures and scents. We even managed to make a large veg bed and triangle beds for fruits. School added a wildlife area with bug houses, a hedgehog house, a pond and a story area. In 2013, I was asked by the chairperson if I could take over running the garden. I couldn't wait to get started. Myself, my trusty sidekick Mary and the other parent helpers all show children how to sow seeds, plant, harvest the veg that we grow. The infants would come over during lesson time, and the juniors were so keen at lunchtime we started the gardening club, and we were inundated with offers of help. We grew extra plants to sell and sold the produce to parents and the local cafe. We entered the Willingdon in Bloom environmental and educational category, and we came first. We also passed the level 1 in the RHS school gardening campaign, and we've made enough money to buy seeds and the compost for 2014. This year, the sensory garden is beginning to bloom and the wildlife area is coming alive, but we've changed the veg beds. We were so amazed by the children's enthusiasm last year that we now have 1 veg bed per year group, and each year group will grow a veg relevant to their curriculum. For example, foundation stage learn the hungry caterpillar story and the enormous turnip. So we grow cabbages and giant snails. We sow the seeds, we plant them in the veg bed, but we also plant cabbages in the wildlife area, and we wait for the caterpillars to come along. And their children see how hungry they really are. This turns a storybook into so much more. So school gardening can be linked to the national curriculum, whether it be a storybook, literacy, maths, art or science. The children enjoy what they do, they are keen to learn more and will always ask me when I'm coming in next. They really do love their outdoor classroom.
I didn't want to do it, but we forced her. And I just think it's really important that people understand that there are people out there who have done this before, and that means that we can do it, whether it's a school art or whatever. So now, we had a little gathering, an informal gathering at the cook show, and there's a few women that got together, and Wendy and Gina and a few other people, and we started talking about edible Eastbourne, what we were going to do, and women get together, all kinds of ideas came up. Wendy mentioned this story about something called stone soup, and it turns out there are a couple of people here who are thinking of doing some work with soup. So I'm going to ask Tina Leonard now to come up and just give us a little talk about stone soup. It's a great story.
The reason I got involved with Edible Eastbourne was because I like growing food, and even more than that, I like eating it, as I'm sure many of you know as well. I went along to the cook shelf to meet some of the people that I've been speaking to via the Facebook page, and Wendy very kindly came up with the story of stone soup, and we've got some copies of the story if you'd like them over on the CD Sunday Leaf Hall stand, so you can tell what the story's all about. Basically, it comes down to sharing in community. So, a stranger arrives in town, they have a pot, they put a stone in it with some water and start cooking up their stone soup. The local people are very reluctant to try and help feed them until they discover they're making this stone soup, and they say, well, it's really nice soup, but we need a few garnishes to go with it, or a few accompaniments. So someone comes along with an onion, someone else might come along with a couple of carrots, someone else might come along with a few cabbage leaves, and gradually it builds and builds, and what they end up with is a huge pot of soup which the whole community enjoys. So this triggered some discussion one Saturday over tea, and we thought it would be, this hasn't happened yet, it's something we're thinking of doing. Certainly from the Leaf Hall, which is my other hat, I'm from the Leaf Hall Community Arts Centre on Seaside, and we run the Eastbourne Seed Swap. We have a registered kitchen at the hall, and we thought it would be very nice to use locally grown produce to produce soup to sell to the community at a very reasonable price. So a mug of soup with a homemade roll would be £3. And we're going up against the big supermarkets for their meal deals, because we think it's a much nicer thing to have some homemade organic soup and a nice bread roll than something that's been sitting wrapped in plastic for a few days. So we're going up against the supermarket's meal deals with this. The other reason for doing it is lots of people like to donate to people less fortunate than themselves. So we came up with the idea of rollover soup. Rollover soup would be a token or a voucher that someone can buy and give that token to somebody less fortunate than themselves, and they can come along and get a mug of soup in a roll. Now, we'd like to start this at Leaf Hall. I know that Kate from the cook shelf would like to do something similar, and we would like it to grow. So if there's little cafes dotted around town that would come on board with the idea, we would hope eventually that every day of the week, somewhere, you can go and get your soup and your roll for £3. And also, if you feel charitable, buy a token, pass it on to someone else. So that's where we are at the moment. So Jason and I, who is also from the Leaf Hall, one of our trustees, are discussing this, and hopefully we will start it up at the Leaf Hall. Possibly Kate from the cook shelf will start on a day. Even if we do one day each a week, if it spreads, you soon fill up the week, and people will learn where to go for their lunches. So that is our story of stone soup.
We're talking about soup grown by people in this town, using vegetables grown by people in this town, and homemade bread. And we're talking about spreading it to other people. It's not, I've got this great idea, and I want to do it, and I'm going to compete with everyone else. It's like, wouldn't it be great if everyone else did that? And that's what we're about here. It's about sharing, it's about encouraging people to develop a new way of doing business, a new way of existing with people, sharing food, growing more food than we have utterly need to give to other people. So thanks very much for that, Gina.
This is wearing my town team t-shirt, which goes very well with this jacket, so that's why I'm wearing it now. On your tables you see these leaflets which are about the Eastbourne Town Team Little Chelsea Flower Show. What we are intending is for every business in Little Chelsea, which is Grove Road and South Street, should have an edible floral or herb display outside their premises. And we're having a Little Chelsea Flower Show planting party on the 17th of May. And we'd like as many people to come and help plant the plants and the hanging baskets and the pots as we can on that day. If anybody is available and willing, please could they come and fill in my form with so I've got your details, so we might be able to recruit some helpers. We've got 167 businesses in the area, and we think that probably there'll be 120 hanging baskets or planters plant and deliver to the premises on the 17th of May. So we need an awful lot of green finger people to help us do that. You don't have to provide the plants or the baskets, just your labour and love. So please come along on the 17th of May and give me your telephone number or your email address, and I'll keep in contact with you.
We can all grow food everywhere, and that's what we want to have happen. Sharing food and all that kind of stuff. Now next I've just got Fiona Durling, who's our members of Edible Eastbourne, and she's going to be talking about the importance of fruit. Thank you, Fiona.
We currently, 70% of the apples we eat in this country are produced abroad and imported. That's not because we can't produce them. A lot of apples just stay on the tree and rot, unfortunately, and that's because of the marketing and transport and all those different things. So that's the other 30% which are produced in Britain, and we're very lucky in Sussex that we do have a lot of orchards and fruit growers. We've got all that fresh fruit which can be utilised and also last for a long period of the year. But I've bought some apples there from Tendering Fruit Farm at Eastbourne Zoo. Their apples in April, they keep them in the cold store, so they supply apples all the way from August to April. After that you get all the soft fruit coming in, so there's always fruit available from Sussex. And we aim to have Sussex fruit. The other thing is we do need to start planting apple trees. This isn't an apple tree, but this is what we need to start planting, any of them that was stopped. These trees, when they're 1 or 2 years old, will take them 4 or 5 years to grow to production, and about 10 years to come to full production. So that's what we've got to be thinking about now. And they don't need a lot of care, a little bit of pruning, a little bit of knowledge, and that's where Edible Eastbourne can help with it. Because there's some very simple books out there. If you ask us, we can provide a bit of help. And we've put some fruit trees in on the really right garden. We've got a lovely a clover, which is a fruit tree for organic growing. And we've got a lovely Charles and a beautiful Victorian palm tree. And the other thing, just to say, is about local food. There's a think group and a support group called the Funding Foundation. Every £1 spent on local food actually provides £2.50 of benefits to the local community. So the more we can actually have local food, and in Tottenham what they do is they give every business a blackboard, they write on there what is local food so people buy it. So that's one way to actually increase it, as well as planting and growing our own on community land. An apple from Tendering Orchards. There's some there that we're asking for donations for. Anybody want to catch it? Oh, there we are.
We have a map here, and we want to see that map with loads of pins in it for every edible area that we develop in Eastbourne. When I say we, I mean all of us, all the townspeople. I'd also like to just mention something tonight. You've probably seen this rather strange looking object sitting on a chair there and wondering, some of you probably know what it is. But this is actually a honeycomb that was taken from the hives run by natural beekeeper Clive Hedger, who's here in the room at the moment. And that is right, is it edible, Clive? Yes, and he brought it along for us to eat. And this is literally warm when he turned up in the room. He's just taken it out. Clive grows bees, or looks after bees, or keeps bees in a way that is very, very natural, that cares for the bees, that doesn't take away all their stuff and just feed them sugar water. I mean, to keep the bee population going, that's also very important, you know, our full pollinated life, bees, insects, and insects. So, we'll arrange, if you want to talk to Clive about natural beekeeping, he's the guy over there in the hat with the long hair and beard. So there you go. I'm going to talk to you now for like 2 minutes about something that's really passionate and dear to my heart. It's something called permaculture. Does anyone here know what permaculture is? How many people really know what it's about? Okay, so that's a few. So permaculture is a way of growing, a holistic way of growing and living. It's a design system for creating growing spaces, living spaces that work the way nature works. And it's all about working in harmony with each other. And permaculture is at the very foundation of transition, which is what Edible Eastbourne grew out of. And if anyone wants to find out more about it, there's lots of books over there on our table over there that will probably take you more, not necessarily about permaculture, but it is a way of growing that doesn't use pesticides, that doesn't use fertilizer. Everything is done naturally. And when you see a permaculture garden, if you're, who's a neat freak here? Who's a neat freak? Like OCD, very tidy. You won't like it, because nature is untidy, and permaculture is not tidy. But there are food forests. You plant a food forest which has like 7 layers, and each layer will have a nut tree, maybe fruit trees, a tree that sheds its leaves specifically for mulch. You may have things that creep along the ground, things that climb up other things. It's like a huge jungle, but everything serves everything else. Everything works together in complete harmony. And you just plant the stuff according to what goes with what. And after a year or so, you don't have to do any work. Oh, sorry. You have to do a lot of work, a real lot of work. Because you have to go and harvest all that abundant food. And in a small space like this, if you planted a food forest in a space like this with a little pond and things like that, I can tell you would get more food out of this space than anyone who's the best allotment or gardener that you know. That this is a space where you could have feed a huge amount, not a huge amount of people, but you could have a huge variety of food, and perennial food, and medicinal herbs, and nutritional herbs, and fruit trees, and beans, and you could have annuals mixed in with perennials. So it's a way of design that those people who really are into permaculture saying it can save the world. They went to the desert in Jordan, a desert of 50 degrees, right, where people were growing under polytunnels with herbicides and pesticides, and they could hardly produce any food. And they turned the desert into a lush forest. They planted date trees, they planted all sorts of things. They found ways to catch the water. And they now have this abundant, lush oasis, which was done purely on the principles of permaculture. So it's a way of really changing the land, and I want to turn everybody onto it, because it really can save our future in terms of food if we learn how to grow in a different way. Okay. So thank you very much.